This is a Dakota News Now special report.
And welcome to Dakota News Now. I'm Brian Allen. We're going to be spending some time this evening with South Dakota gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson. It has been a while, so thank you for coming in to spend some time with us.
Thanks for having me.
What is it about this specific moment in time that allowed you to say, I'm going to do this and I'm going to do it now?
I think the next 20 years can be the best 20 years in South Dakota's history. But that doesn't happen by accident. And if we're being honest, I don't know that that's the trajectory we're on right now. This is a great state, but in some key areas we are falling behind, and the metrics bear that out. And so for me, I probably could have stayed in Washington, D.C. and been reelected easily, cycle after cycle. But the real battle, I think the real fight for leadership and energy is right here in South Dakota.
The next 20 years in your mind is driven by what specifically? Or do we know?
I think energy and vision. I think we don't have the kind of bold plan we need on public safety. We certainly do not for education, nor do we on how to create prosperity. You know, our wages in this state have gone down 2% at the same time that wages are increasing nationally by 2%.
Yeah.
And I don't get the sense that we have any real bold leadership. You look at what Janklow did. Under Janklow, we dreamed big. We saved the railroads. We wired every single school. We turned this town into a global banking hub. I just don't get the sense that we have big dreams like that anymore, and that's too bad.
Let's talk about education for a moment, because you brought it up, and I think this is interesting. It's not been for a lack of trying. What has been the problem from then until now in terms of education that you would come in and change?
Yeah, well, yes, it's not for lack of trying from the educator's perspective. We have good schools, we've got great educators. I mean, I have on 3 different days spent the whole day substitute teaching. At elementary school, at middle school, at high school. That gives you renewed appreciation for how hard these educators work.
I hear a but coming.
Well, no, yes. The problem is that at the state government level, in the governor's office, we are not trying. We don't have a bold vision for education. Now, we know that that bold vision can work. So Mississippi went from 49th in reading all the way up to 9th in reading. They made that turnaround in just 5 years. It's not just literacy. You look at math, numeracy. Alabama did the same thing. They went from 52nd. Brian, I don't even know how you get to be 52nd in reading. I guess we must be including Guam and Puerto Rico in those rankings. They went from 52nd to 38th. Now, South Dakota is capable of anything that Mississippi and Alabama are capable of. There's one big difference. Those states had bold and visionary governors, people like Tate Reeves in Mississippi, who put together the plan and made sure that they were able to execute on the plan. You can say that it's not for a lack of trying. I would just ask any of your viewers, are they aware of any grand plan for South Dakota to replicate the Mississippi miracle? I suspect they are not.
So you're seeing a student performance issue, because a lot of times when you bring up education, what people immediately go to is teacher pay, quality of teachers, retaining teachers. You're seeing a student performance issue.
Absolutely. I mean, that's got to be job number one. I mean, of course, we want to treat our educators well. They work incredibly hard, and we know that the gold standard of education is a loving, caring, hardworking person, a brilliant person standing in front of a classroom of young people who want to learn. That's the gold standard. We can implement as many screens into this equation as we want, but that's the gold standard. But yes, a majority of our school kids cannot read at grade level. And yet we have a governor who is not talking about this, has no plan, has no vision, and has no real urgency behind this.
We are with gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson this evening. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll be right back after this on Dakota News Now. Welcome back to Dakota News Now. We are with gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson tonight. The next 20 years in South Dakota, being a leader on the forefront of development of technology. Let's talk about that for a second. A lot of people are getting queasy about the idea of data centers.
Well, you need to make sure you're doing them right and doing them the right way. We know that data centers can be done well. We see in North Dakota that state may be as pro data center as any state in America the last 3 years. During that same time, they saw their electric rates go down in North Dakota. And they went down more than they went down in any other state in America. Now, there are other states that have not done data centers well, and there have been some costs to that. That's why I rolled out my Data Centers Done Right plan. I suppose that was 6 or 9 months ago now. We are not going to welcome data centers into the state if I'm governor unless we can verify 4 things. Number 1, it's not going to hurt our electric rates. Number 2, it's not going to hurt our water. Number 3, that they're going to create good jobs. We do not need more mediocre jobs in this state. We want good jobs.
Yeah.
And number 4, that they will pay millions and millions of dollars in taxes, reducing the tax burden for the rest of us.
We've heard for years a lot of people say, you know, if this and that were to happen, South Dakota could become the Silicon Valley of the upper Midwest. Are you on board with that? Is that what you would like to happen? Would you like to see that type of scenario unfold?
I think it would be nice to look at how data centers can make South Dakota stronger. Now, I'm a little skeptical that we would become the Silicon Valley.
Okay.
We don't even have one large data center in this state. I would say this, you know, you look at Dual County, South Dakota. Clear Lake is the county seat. Little town of Toronto was ready to get a data center. Now, because of the failures of Speaker John Hanson and Governor Larry Roden this last legislative session, that data center is moving. I suspect they're moving right across the border to Minnesota. To the extent that that data center creates any problems on the electric grid, it will cause problems on our electric grid from that side of the state border. Yet all the taxes, instead of flowing to South Dakota, all the jobs, instead of flowing to South Dakota, will flow to Minnesota. What kind of taxes I'm talking about? That project would have paid $5 million a year in taxes in Dual County. All of the taxes paid to Dual County today from everybody, there's only $11 million. $5 million, reducing the property taxes of citizens in Dual County. It would have been transformational. I can't even imagine something else that would make the schools that much stronger, make the roads that much stronger, and allow a 20, 30, 40% property tax cut of people in Dual County. We're not even in the game on those kinds of conversations because of a failure of leadership.
What would you consider to be, for you, sort of a back burner issue that should be getting more attention, but it's not?
Oh, public safety. We have the 3rd worst recidivism rate in America. Now, this is relatively new for us. That was not the case 5 years ago, 10 years ago. This is about a failure of leadership. Half of the people we are letting out of our prisons, half, go on to commit another crime. They break into another car, they sell meth to another kid. Those are not the numbers you are seeing in other parts of this country. We know that the state-run parole system is giving repeat offenders too many bites at the apple. That's why you're seeing Mayor Paul TenHaken, Sheriff Milstead, State's Attorney Daniel Hager publicly criticize this state government and this governor's office for what has been a remarkable lack of urgency in dealing with this issue. You know, at one of our televised debates, the governor had said, well, listen, we don't have the new prison opened up until 2030. Yeah, we'll improve some programming behind the walls, but we've got till 2030 to get our game plan squared away on that. I thought that was a remarkable admission that unfortunately right now our state government does not understand the urgency. We are doing rehabilitation. We are doing addiction treatment with these prisoners about as bad as any other state in the country. Again, 3rd worst. That's not a back burner issue. That's a front burner issue. It's the, but we still have candidates that are not talking about this. And that's why last week I was endorsed by the Fraternal Order of Police. These are the line level law enforcement officers who feel like they've been shut out and they're frustrated by the total lack of urgency.
And we are with South Dakota gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson this evening. We're going to take a quick break and then we'll return on Dakota News Now. And welcome back to Dakota News Now. We are with gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson tonight. I want to go back to something you said in the previous block there about how the recidivism problem in South Dakota wasn't happening 5-10 years ago. What changed? What happened?
Repeat offenders were getting too many bites at the apple. So it is not so much the laws of South Dakota, although those can be improved as well.
Yeah.
It's really about consequences. I am told by Sheriff Mueller in Pennington County that people can show up for a parole meeting And for your viewers, probation is on the front end. That's the judge giving you one last shot before he or she sends you to prison. Parole is on the back end, where we supervise you. Now, if we're doing a good job supervising you, you are more likely to make good decisions because you know bad decisions will have consequences. And you don't want to go back to prison. Prison was not fun, and so you're going to do a better job of making good decisions. When we give these offenders, these folks who are supposed to be under state supervision, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 bites at the apple, they are more likely to make bad decisions rather than make good decisions. The governor rolled out last week under incredible pressure after a police officer in Sioux Falls was shot by somebody who was on parole. He rolled out some reforms. The reason that I still have so many law enforcement officers and prosecutors endorsing me is that they have all said that is too little, too late.
You have been South Dakota's lone representative in the U.S. House for a couple of years now. What has working in that role taught you that you can bring to the governor's office?
Well, there's too much anger and rancor in D.C. And of course, that's not really how I'm wired. And one of the things that I'm most looking forward to being governor, because I think we're going to be able to plant seeds of vision and energy that are going to bear tremendous fruit for my kids, my 3 sons. Max is 21, Ben is 18, Owen is 14. And I want them to choose this state. But we've got to have opportunities for them to do that. But I'm also really looking forward to it because I know that South Dakota is a bit of an oasis in a world where the politics has become increasingly angry and rancorous. And I know South Dakota is a great state. I know that there are some things where we're falling behind, and I'm not afraid to call those out. But I also know that if we're going to fix them, once the primary is done, once the general election is done, we're going to need to come together and find some shared purpose, find some unity of vision so we can tackle those things. I think that unity of purpose is still possible in South Dakota in a way where it has really proven elusive in D.C.
And we're going to take a quick break here. We'll be back right after this with Dusty Johnson on Dakota News Now. And welcome back to Dakota News Now as we're spending some time this evening with gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson. We thank you for coming in again. If you do ascend to the governorship of South Dakota, tell me about what your legislative style would be. Like, how would you work with House leadership, Senate leadership? Walk me through that.
It's going to be incredibly collaborative. And of course, anybody can say that. So how do you know they're telling the truth? And I do think the past is a pretty good indicator of future performance. And so you can see when I was Chief of Staff to Governor Dugard, we worked together to implement $127 million of cost savings, working very closely with the legislative branch. Number 2, in Congress, that's really what I'm known for. Speaker Johnson relies on me to know every single one of the members of the U.S. House, particularly on the Republican side. I know their names. I know what they care about. I know their spouses. We work together to get things done. And in this campaign as well, there are lots of legislative candidates that I'm working closely with, because I think when you've got folks who love this state, who are willing to work hard, who know that we have something special here, but that we can do even better, I'm excited to have those folks on the team.
You have previous experience as well, having served on the state's Public Utilities Commission, so that's not an outside-the-box topic for you. What concerns do you have about utilities right now, if any? So
affordability is a huge problem. It is by far and away the biggest problem that I hear South Dakotans talk about. Now, that can come in a few different flavors, right? For some folks, that's healthcare.
Yeah.
They like the fact that I've taken a lead role in trying to push back on big pharma. I'm not a fan of big pharma. They're not a fan of mine, but they are contributing to a lot of increase in healthcare costs. But it's not just healthcare costs. It's an affordability problem across the board. And particularly now that we have 3 different sales tax increases that we've seen Governor Roden and Speaker of the House John Hanson work together to pass into law, that is, over time, going to make everything in South Dakota more expensive. And people don't really understand that that's coming down the line, but that is going to make affordability considerably worse in this state.
How do you reconcile that, though, with the folks who will say to you, look, as we go through time moving forward, nothing is likely going to get cheaper. Things are going to get more expensive. At some point, doesn't the state have to enact a tax here or a tax there to get money on their end to pay for the things that need to happen. Does that argument hold water with you?
Well, not when you're talking about percentages. I mean, if you're talking about like the gas tax or something is a dollar amount per gallon. Now that dollar amount stays flat even as inflation eats away at it. So for instance, at the federal level, we haven't increased the gas tax since 1997. That buys 75% less today than it did back then. So I think you can make that argument on something like the gas tax. On a sales tax, that's already perfectly hedged to inflation. If things are twice as expensive today as they were 20 years ago, you're getting twice as much sales tax. And so it is a failure of leadership when you have, John Hanson and Larry Roden working together to pass not one, not two, but 3 new sales taxes. That is, I think that's a failure of leadership. Now, maybe some of your viewers like one of them. I didn't have a problem with one of them.
Yeah.
But there's a big difference between 1 and 2 and 3. I mean, 1 dessert after dinner, fine. 3 desserts after dinner, a bad idea.
And we're going to take a quick break here. We are with gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson tonight. We'll be back after this on Dakota News Now. Welcome back to Dakota News Now. We're wrapping things up tonight with South Dakota gubernatorial candidate Dusty Johnson. You're on the road a lot and will be between now and primary election day. What do voters want to talk to you about? What do they ask you about? What do they want to know from you?
They do ask a lot about this affordability issue. I think as they begin to have a better understanding that these 3 new taxes are coming down, they're concerned about that. But then the second issue is probably, where are we going as a state? Do we have a plan for how to increase prosperity? That's the other side of affordability, right? Let's not make it worse, but if people have more money in their pockets, you're addressing the affordability issue.
Yeah.
They know that we used to be the best state in America for business. We have slid from #1 all the way down to 35th in the most recent survey. And so I think they're excited about how do we climb our way back up with some leadership so that they have a little bit more money in their pocket and opportunities for their kids and grandkids to choose South Dakota.
So as we sit here right now, do you have an idea of what you want to do for economic business conditions here in the state? How do you get there?
Yeah, I mean, I've unveiled the Launch South Dakota plan, which is shifting dollars away from this big smokestack chasing that this administration has done some of. And for me, Brian, the light bulb went off. I mean, Larry Roden spent a few weeks chasing around some Montana-like fraudster who didn't have any money, but had convinced the governor that he was going to be buying TikTok and moving it to South Dakota. That was a pipe dream. That was never going to happen. Instead, we should be focusing that energy on making sure that South Dakota business owners and people who want to create their businesses here have a better opportunity. That's what Launch South Dakota is all about.
Dusty Johnson, candidate for South Dakota governor, speaking with us tonight. Again, we thank you for coming in. We do appreciate the time.
Thanks much.
Yep, thank you for being with us this evening here on Dakota News Now. Primary election day coming up pretty soon here, 2nd of June. So make sure you go out there and cast your vote. Good night from Sioux Falls.